Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to Gaia Daily for March 15th and 16th. So, wow, really powerful energies. And I think I want to just talk about the astrology and what's going on and keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening here as these energies are really intense, but also rapidly shifting. And keep our eye on the ball of what's really happening in that bigger picture. So we are feeling, yesterday, Mars had its exact sextile with Neptune, and we'll be feeling that up through the equinox. And so Mars is in Capricorn and in sextile to Neptune. Of course, it's getting close, coming into its conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto. And so this sextile with Neptune is a very important precursor energy. And so Neptune rules our dreams, delusions, confusion, that bigger kind of energy of our collective consciousness. And Mars is, of course, about action, change, making things happen. And so, and of course, it's in the sign of Capricorn. So we're talking about the structures and we're talking about our delusions and our dreams. And Mars is kind of trying to push through these delusions. And you can feel this energy. And so much is being revealed to us right now. So much is coming up in our everyday world that is coming out of our collective consciousness to be exposed. And that's a really important thing to remember right now in these times, is that everything we're feeling right now has been happening underneath the scenes, deep in our subconscious and in our collective subconscious. And now it's blooming and coming to the surface and just kind of being like, okay, so it's been going on. All these feelings, all these energies that are coming up, now they're coming out to be exposed and to be released. And that healing crisis is like exactly where we're at, And I've talked about this in the true, this comes from my work as a homeopath, that in a true healing, if you're really removing disease from the body rather than just suppressing, like what our healthcare system is really about, there's not really a lot of health and there's not a lot of care in our health system, but that might be a video for another time. But anyway, when you have true healing, symptoms come up to express themselves, as they're leaving. And that's what's happening in our world right now. So we're in a healing crisis, we're in an expression. And I think it's really interesting what's coming up in the collective and how it relates to these souls. Now, these souls that follow my work are very sensitive. They feel the collective energies. And wow, have we been given an opportunity here to recognize our contractual arrangements, our feelings of responsibility to the earth, to humanity, to groups of souls, to our family. And so this is where we get stuck, right? And maybe this is our whole why we've been so stuck in earth evolution, in these souls, in their karmic loop, in their karmic soup, we should call it, is these feelings of responsibility. And that how we're here because we want to help, we want to bring the light, we want to bring the healing, we want to move earth evolution forward. And yet we've gotten stuck in these loyalty contracts where, and this is a perfect example of like the people around you in hysteria and panic. And then of course, that's where you go because that's how it feels like, well, if they're there, I should be there with them. Except for that's not what we're here to do. We're here to hold space for something different. And this, what's happening in the world is giving us this huge opportunity to recognize these patterns and empower ourselves back to our permission for peace, for hope, because we know if we can go deep, deep inside, and maybe way, way out there to the bigger truths, it's like we know that beautiful things are trying to happen, right? And that this is about the breakdown of the old structures. It is about a healing crisis. It is about the false paradigms, falling away under our feet. But that wouldn't be happening at all if the light wasn't coming in. And so again, we're being called to put our attention there and it's like we thought our purpose was to go deep into the traumas and the tragedies of humanity, and it was, in a way, in order to, like, really come into the compassion and the strength of our soul purpose, but now it's really time for us to step back and be true to who we really are. Now, that's a big message coming through right now, is that these soul groups are having like, your soul's being called home right now, and it's intense because it's like hard. It makes it even a little more difficult to handle the collective hysteria, because you're kind of half in, half out. You don't know who you are. You're kind of disoriented. Um, but I have to say that when I see people, souls land, they get their soul retrieval kind of coming in and landing, it's so much easier to hold that space for what's really true, and hold that space for peace, and hold that space for light, and the forwarding of our evolution and what we're really doing here and where we're going. And so this is a good thing. It's dramatic, though. It's happening very fast. And like I said, it's completely disorienting. And when your bigger self comes and tries to land in your life, all of the structures of your personal life that don't support that are going to have to dismantle, just kind of like the structures of our you know of our greater world are dismantling at this time. So, but it's really powerful to think about, if these souls, and who you are. If you're listening, that's who you are, because otherwise you'd have no interest in this at all. But what a lot of these souls have been dealing with for lifetimes, and energies of what that has been going on as they try to process the deep hidden traumas in the subconscious. That's this It's really an interesting shift that's happening with the energies that are going on. And that's what I'm sensing, is that we're having a bloom right now. Like I said, this stuff has all been deep hidden in our subconscious. Now it's just coming to the surface. So we need to step back and not be so scared of it. But it's like I'm seeing this picture after picture of trauma that's happened on the earth that hasn't been resolved. That's like just all of these things that have happened. And then these particular soul groups that are drawn to this work, having all these deep, intense feelings of not being able to help and heal these things, right? And feeling powerless to do anything. So these energies are really coming up right now, but it's not true, right? It's really about us coming into our power right now. But I think for the collective consciousness, it's like we're having all these traumas of things that have happened. This is serving as a homeopathic remedy, in a way, this situation that we're dealing with right now, and bringing to the surface unresolved traumas, genocides, catastrophes. Like, it's all coming up. These are ancestral energies held in our DNA, held in the land, held in the lower astral plane when stuck souls. And so it's really helpful to see, like, oh, this is a blooming. So in homeopathy, it's called an expression of old symptoms, coming to the surface. And so that's kind of what's going on here. It's not as it seems. And that's the weird thing with Mars sextile Neptune. It's like we're trying to power through the delusions, but Mars always stirs up the boat, stirs up the water, and then it's like, it's trying to clean it, but it's even muddier for a little while, right? And then that presentation of old symptoms, these traumas that haven't been resolved. And it's like, I'm just seeing flashes of pictures, like flying out, trying to be released. And maybe that's this new energy coming in, of what our ancestors have experienced, what we've experienced in past lives, and these unhealed traumatic experiences that we can't take into the Aquarian age with us. We've got to do it a different way. So that's something to be mindful of. And then it's really interesting to me that a lot of the energies coming up right now have to do with, like, forced isolation, right? And this quarantine energy. And I have been talking about how these souls feel quarantined. And because it's like we have been, because of those authority contracts and where we've agreed not to come into our higher power, and the fact that we don't even know we have this higher power. But there's a part of us that senses there's something we're here to do. And so this so it's like we've been battling with this quarantine over lifetimes of like, oh no, you don't come into your higher power. And so I've been shown so much forces and energy going in to keeping these souls from activating into their higher chakra, heart, and the cosmic heart consciousness, and the higher faculties of what we were working with way back in ancient times, like say Atlantis. And Atlantis is on the table right now for sure. I wonder if we're going to get a reveal of some true ancient history soon, because it's in the ethers, and maybe it has to do with that Saturn moving into Aquarius at the end of the month, because Saturn so Aquarius does kind of have the vibrational energy of these higher technologies that we were fully working with in Atlantean time, and they're being fully used against us right now to control us, and so we are having all of this stuff come to the surface, and where we've been programmed to fear our own power, where we've agreed that we will never again come in, but it's like, why would we go through all of this to not come into who we really are? And these higher abilities that we have are absolutely, completely safe, especially when they're used in alignment with the cosmic heart consciousness and the earth and the highest ideal. Where they were a danger is when people who had lower vibrational, working with lower paradigms and lower agenda energies, were using these technologies. And we've blamed ourselves for this for too long. And maybe that's the thing with these Atlantean catastrophes. I've seen again and again that was a small amount of people who used the power to literally create catastrophes, not us misusing our power. It's a complete and total lie. And yet we're holding the karma of those catastrophes. And maybe that's what's coming up, right? This energy is like, gotta be cleansed out. And so in the end, and then because these souls landing home, our divine timelines trying to land on the planet and individually. And so the catastrophe right now is with our structures of this world, the old paradigm, the old structures of our thought patterns, the old structures of our self-worth, the old structures of keeping ourselves powerless and blaming ourselves, and in the lower vibrational energies of not feeling worthy of who we are and what we're here to do. And this is what's on the table. So it's really interesting that we've been battling with this quarantine energy, feeling like there's literally just these forces of technology keeping us from this, in this small psyche, these souls that have so much experience in past lives and past evolutions with spiritual ascension. And here we are now in a place of quarantine, all of us, right? Collectively. And it's interesting because it's like, I think that means these soul groups, you guys, we're getting out of quarantine now. Like, that's what this means, actually. And isolation. These souls have been kept in massive isolation, because if you have a fear programmed of your own power, then you're not going to allow your powerful soulmate, buddy, friends, team to come into your life, right? Because that's way more power. And so there's like a deliberate set of control energies and beliefs and contracts and all kinds of things that keep us from finding our soul team. But the intensity of these times is pushing us through that. And to feel like, oh wait, we haven't been actually, like we get out of quarantine when we come into our power and connect to our soul group. We don't have to be in physical location to feel their presence. But then if we do connect on that astral plane and other levels of consciousness, then eventually we will find each other in 3D reality and enjoy those relationships and get to work on the projects that we came here to do, And so I think that this might be really helpful for these soul groups. It's like, oh, this is as the mass, because it's like, have you been holding, because of these loyalty contracts, like the collective pain, the collective trauma, living out this isolation, this quarantine, and now that it's being expressed in our world, that means you're getting out of isolation as a soul and getting out of quarantine. So really powerful energies here, and so much coming to the surface, so much having opportunity to be revealed. And I talked in the video yesterday about some like dark paradigm stuff, some dark agenda stuff. And the message around that is that it's not successful. There is a plan, and you could see how this could play out if they were really had their act together, but they had to do it too soon because we are winning. And so you could see how this whole thing could, this type of situation could cause a massive more trauma and collective pain, and many more deaths, and that kind of martial law control energy coming in. You could see a glimpse of that agenda, except for it's not succeeding, you know? And so, but it's really important to come to the surface so it's revealed, and people can understand what's been, this agenda. But it's really important to understand that the infrastructure wasn't in place fully to succeed in their dark agenda at this time. But it's really important we go this far into it so that people can wake up to the truth. And it's not fun, and that's really the most painful part. It's like, oh, we have these fears of having what we need and being able to survive and being able, everybody getting sick, all these stories coming up. But really, the pain of this time is having to face how we've been controlled and what has been done to us, and like, just kind of, we're looking at this hysteria and the panic and how that's being fed by our news media. And it's like, it's really weird, because it's like, wait, don't they want to help us? Like, don't they want to give us the information we need to be healthy, to stay safe, to help each other? No. And it's like, oh God, doesn't our healthcare system want to actually keep us healthy and take care of us? No. Everything has been trying to, the powers in control of all of our structure, of our systems, have been about eliminating population, and it sucks to look at that. It really, really sucks. And this is the pain. And this is where you, as an evolved soul who can see the bigger picture, who is not as susceptible to the mind control and the hysteria, needs to come deep into that sense of place of purpose, of peace, into your ceremonial lodge, into your place of knowing. Now, one of the things that has come forward around, as I've been exploring, how can I help these soul groups connect back together? Because that's just been a big part of my purpose and my desire, my focus and my work. And one of the things that's come forward is like, there's something going on here with why we're spread out. Because I would see that these soul groups, even though you've been together since the beginning of time, you have literally come from the same origin. You have the same similar ancient lineage connections. You have very similar patterns that you've played out in your past lives, and you've often incarnated on the earth at the same time, but not the same location, and there is a reason for us to be so spread out right now, because we are serving that calm in the storm. We're serving as that sanity in the insanity. And like, just knowing that, it's like, okay, it's just one of those bigger picture things that might help you right now, that you are being called to, be right there present with the truth, the bigger truths, the wider truths of what's really going on spiritually, so that you can hold a space of calm and sanity for the people around you. And so the energies, the pushing through the delusions energies with this Mars sextile Neptune, what's coming up so huge is these beliefs that we don't have any power. We can never win against this monster that we have been fighting since Atlantean times. This energy that's been in control of our structures, keeping us in overpower, keeping us disconnected from our spiritual self, keeping us in fear, keeping us in poverty, keeping us disempowered. And so these things have to come to the surface. And that's how a lot of these souls, that's what's cleansing out of the field right now, is this feeling that you've had for so long of like, there's nothing you can do, and here you are, all of this work you've done over many lifetimes and evolutions, and you're just stuck here with all this evil and all this darkness and not able to help. And yet now we're finding the power we have to help, and the incredible power of this National Day of Prayer and people coming together. And just in a half an hour from now, and just they're doing a collective prayer in the Pacific time zone, and at noon. And we have talked about noon in your time zone, doing a prayer wave for these particular souls that we've been working with together here, holding space for what we're really creating for about 3 minutes at that noon time in your time zone. Holding space for what's really happening and what we're really creating, which is a way healthier, way better world where we're going to actually take care of each other. And, this is what's necessary. These souls, like I talked about, the quarantine, the isolation, but the other thing that these souls have been feeling is like deep, deep pain, heavy energies, like holding the pain of the collective, and that's shifting for you now, right? Because now the collective is going through it. And it's time for you to come out from under that dark cloud and come into your permission. So a lot of what's going on here is like maybe that radical change in self-worth and your permission. It's not your role here isn't to go down into the depths with the collective. Your role is to hold a different place of peace and serenity and knowing. And that means a lighter vibration. And it does feel weird because it's like, whoa, is that really okay? Because everybody else is just so in it, It's like, you've been carrying these energies for far too long. And now it's time for you to step in a new higher vibration. And that means you got to find permission within yourself to feel better. But it's time. Your work isn't to stay down in the mire of that garbage. Enough being a garbage collector, recycler of collective dark energies. That's not what you came here to do. But that was kind of what we got stuck in the Piscean age. So it makes sense. It's all coming up right now. And so we are having this opportunity to, part of the energy that's going on right now is that you can't heal. There's no healing. All you can do to protect yourself from this illness is wash your hands. And it's just like, oh, it's just so frustrating as, a person who's dedicated my life to healing and health and brew healing and health. And I've just seen such amazing miracles with the immune system and the power of our body to heal itself. And that's what homeopathy gives you. If you feel a homeopathic remedy working in your body, you have a faith in healing. And the thing that I am not actively practicing right now, homeopathy, because I'm focusing on the intuitive work, because I found that, and definitely through the Edgar Casey work, readings, that there's a karmic component to all our disease. And if we're not dealing with that, then you can't quite go in with a miracle medicine and just take away the disease, right? Like people have to be ready for that. And it takes a lot more effort. I was trying to do work that people weren't willing to do for themselves. And so I am now addressing health issues through the intuitive work. But the power of homeopathy, when you work with it and you see the power of the body, because what homeopathy does is it's giving a message, something in nature that gives a message to the body that says, hey, this is the roadmap to health. This is what you need to do. And it's so amazing. I mean, it's such a spiritual revelation to see how this world and our Mother Earth are manifested. It's like every disease, even though it's like now we're dealing with a new level of disease with this technological interference, but like still nature provides medicine. The perfect medicine is out there, And when you find that medicine that matches the vibration of the disease, and you take the medicine in a potency, so potency means it's diluted and succussed, means shaken up in water, and we know that water has been proven to us that it has memory. So that's kind of how homeopathy works. Then you take that medicine and it tells your body, it's like your massive amount of life force that you have, your vital force, gets the message, the roadmap home. It's like, oh, okay, this is how we do it. And bam, healing happens. you know? And so in my practice, I'd be like, I'd often encourage people, it's okay to get sick, like with a cold or a flu. Think about how your body is releasing so many toxins at one time. And people who are more chronically ill, like say with cancer or things, they don't actually get sick. So it's like you actually have to be at a place of health to get sick. And it's so backwards to what we're being told right now. It's like, oh no, don't get the virus because the world will end, and it's like everybody's recovering from the virus except for a very small amount of our population, and they are already compromised. And, we do want to protect as many people as we can, right? But the paradigm, this is what's, awesome coming to surface, the lies, like we said, like the news media hysteria. Why would they? That's so damaging to us, to stir up all of this fear, for political reasons or what's going on, like control. And it's just like, it's so not healthy, right? And so this whole paradigm says that there's no protecting yourself against this disease. Just wash your hands, stay away from people, wear a mask. And they're saying it's actually hard to get it person to person contact. It's more in the air and the dust, which makes it kind of interesting too. It's almost like an allergen more. So then we're like, okay, so then what's up with all the chemtrails they've been spraying all this time? Does that have something to do with this? In the technological microwave technology that happens to vibrate at our brainwave frequency. Because the deal with homeopathy is that you would take a person's physical symptoms, like what they're having with this, so you talk about, okay, so you're having a cough or you're having this or a fever. And then you would find those symptoms in the substance you're looking for. But the most important symptoms are the mental symptoms. Like the right remedy has to fit vibrationally with the mental system. So isn't that interesting that we're all being put in a place of hysteria and fear? And vibrationally, that makes us susceptible, right? And it's like, nobody was talking about what actual real health is, and how that we have the power to protect ourselves. And it's not that big of a deal to get sick. It's actually good for your body to get sick and to fight off, so that's what they're saying too. Like people who have had autoimmune or AIDS type, who have a compromised immune system because of that vulnerabilities, they're actually a little bit more at risk, and they're using AIDS medications for the virus in certain locations. And so but it's just this whole lie of that we can't protect ourselves, and the way to protect ourselves is to isolate, to be angry at each other, and then this whole feeling of like, if you do have symptoms, you're like some leper and you can't you're like, oh God, like they're demonized, right? It's like, whoa, this is actually the history of all diseases presenting itself, which means we are ready to overcome disease. No wonder they have to use technology to try to pull off this pandemic. And so in homeopathy, you're looking for that vibrational resonance in the mental symptoms, how the person, what their fears, their dreams, their emotions, how they feel. That's going to get you the right vibrational resonance. And then when you take the remedy, the body says, oh yeah, I got the roadmap. I know how to heal now. And it's amazing. And it's so powerful to see and to experience this. And, so I was looking at, okay, so we've got a collective pandemic of fear going on, and what's the remedy for that? And so I was kind of searching and looking and researching with the homeopath. So what goes on in homeopathy? The reason when it really works, it's because it's individual. Like everybody really technically who has a virus would have a different set of symptoms, and so they all need a different remedy. That's why homeopathy hasn't gone super mainstream, because when you take a remedy like those remedies where there's a group of remedies together at the store, like they just throw a bunch of remedies in there for a cough or a cold or whatever, you might get a remedy in there that resonates, but most often they don't work very well because it's not even working with the true principles of homeopathy, which the true principles of homeopathy is the most appropriate, most similar remedy. And so a whole bunch of remedies thrown at you isn't homeopathy. And so now then, so we're looking for this resonance, and it would normally be individual, but when there is a pandemic, there's like a collective energy going on. And so what homeopaths do around the world, which is so cool, is that they take their cases of working with this particular virus, and they document those cases and the most common remedy prescribed. And what they're trying to find is called a genus epidemicus, which is like the remedy that fits the vibration of the illness, even though it's not traditional homeopathy as far as like the most appropriate for the individual body and how it's presenting, but it can be really helpful. And then you can take that remedy as what a prophylaxis, which is like, if you've been exposed or an area where there is the disease, you can take that to prevent it because you're vibrationally, kind of addressing that vibration in your field. You don't want to take it unless you're in an area that's exposed or has it in that vibrational air. But, this is so collective and so planetary everywhere, right? And that's why these collective energies are so overwhelming to deal with, because it's one thing if there's something happening in the world in one location, we can send our light and love and prayers, right? But the whole world is going through this, and the whole world is being, on this hysteria fear program. And so I was researching these different remedies, and it's really interesting. So the one that really comes up is called Polypropus pinicoli, and it's a fungus, which is interesting. There's a very porous fungus, and it grows on trees, and you've seen it, and they call it red-banded fungi or red-banded mushroom, but it grows on trees, and it typically grows, it likes pine trees, but in conifers, but it'll grow on other trees as well, and it's everywhere. And so if you pull it off of the tree, it's got a very porous energy, and this is kind of the energy of this virus, like you can't protect yourself. And it's interesting, the parasitic energy, right? Because everything it's like it has to live on a host. But it can live on the host of the tree after it's dead too. And if there's very old growth trees, so there has to be an injury in the tree first for this fungus to attach itself, right? So it's all this kind of open to the outside, right? Like this influence of technology, not being able to protect ourselves, and this kind of like that, and that's part of the energy of the 5G, is that how it works when it's being activated. There can be safe 5G, I think, and then there's when it's being used as more of a weapon, and it opens your pores to, like, so it's that feeling of vulnerability and can't protect yourself, and you can't do anything against this. This is this whole collective vibration, especially these souls. It's like nothing you can do to protect yourself. Oh, you just wash your hands, stay away from everybody, like we don't have an immune system, and yet it fits all these autoimmune diseases too. That's why it's like more like an allergen, because autoimmune diseases have this energy of like it's a breach in your ability to protect yourself. And that can be a very common set of symptoms for these souls, because they have that's exactly what's going on in your psyche, so empathic, so porous, and unable to protect yourself from outside energies. Right? But that's actually part of the beautiful gift that you have too. But it becomes a disability, especially in these times, like of being overwhelmed with collective hysteria and unable to claim your own permission to feel the way you want to feel. And yet it's giving us this huge opportunity to claim that authority and that autonomy in our field. So this is really interesting because it needs some sort of break or injury in the tree to attach in the first place and to grow there, so it's like growing on old traumas, and it will continue to grow after the tree dies. Now, old growth trees in Alaska, what I found is that wood, if they have this fungus, that wood isn't so good to be used as like board feet of lumber. So in the old growth trees, younger trees, it doesn't do that so much, but the older growth trees, it will make the wood not as good, not as strong. which is exactly what this energy is of this virus. It's like making us all feel weak, and like we don't have the structures to support ourselves. We don't have a way to protect ourselves. We've been invaded, and then that's how the whole scenario happened in China with the deaths and everything like that, was that the 5G was being employed. It was an attack on their 5G system, supposedly. Who knows? There's all this information out there you can research, but the effect of this is that it keeps your oxygen intake. It interferes with your ability to uptake oxygen. And so the so-called respiratory illness was really more about, so you can see how those could work together, a minor respiratory illness and then this technology. And then people are passing out, but they don't have a fever or inflammation. And so there's some really tricky stuff going on there. And then a lot of the areas of big infection also have rolled out that technology, like Italy, and the cruise ships were using it. So it's very interesting. But this substance, this polyporous pinicoli, is the effect so it's kind of like a food. You can eat it as a food, and the Native Americans used it. And but what they found is it's almost like a reishi mushroom, and it's everywhere. It grows all over the place too, which is just the magic. It's just, this is the type of thing where it's like, oh gosh, here we are in this modern day situation, and Mother Earth has provided for us, and so when you take this mushroom and eat it like a food, people just powder it up and make a drink out of it or put it on their food or whatever, and it increases your ability to oxygenate. And it's like a miracle mushroom, but it's just like a food too. It's totally safe. And the Native Americans actually used it. They put it in their pipe with their tobacco because of that oxygen relationship to oxygen. It would help them move fire, like if they wanted to go and take their fire to another place. And also they'd put it in their pipe with the tobacco to keep the tobacco burning. And so, and here it is, just this lowly mushroom hanging out on the side of the trees, parasitic, which is exactly the energy we're dealing with right now. The control energies call us parasites of the earth, and they want to get rid of us, right? Low bottom feeders, except for like hugely powerful consciousness beings, and have actually come from higher evolutionary places than they have. These are fourth, fifth dimensional beings that are the control energies, and we came from way higher. So why are we giving our power over to them? And of course, they have had to go through a lot to keep us from even knowing we have this power, because it's game over for them once we figure out we do, which is where we're at right now. And so I just want to share that story of like the miracle of this world and the magic, and just keep our eyes on the prize of that, of what's really happening here, and the gift of the healing that's coming from this. And it's kind of like homeopathy shows you, it's like a disease is created, a solution is already there, and the sickness brings the cure. And so I can put some links about this information of an article about exploring the genus Epidemicus in homeopathy. And the other thing I wanted to mention was this is just a perfect example of the totally messed up healthcare system that we have, and the control energies is that vitamin C, little old vitamin C, is being censored on the internet. Because they found in Japan that vitamin C is just hugely effective in treating this virus. And it's so simple and it's so easy. And yet they don't want people to know about it. And so now there's all this counter information out there saying, oh no, that's not substantiated. Oh, and it's okay if you're a doctor, a medical doctor, to talk about how vitamin C could help you, even though they don't even study nutrition really, But it's not okay if you're not a doctor to prescribe vitamin C, and it's like, but anyway, they're using intravenous vitamin C with huge results, and you don't need an IV. You need to eat an orange or drink some grapefruit juice or something, because the bioavailability and the actual like substance with the bioflavonoids and all the other good stuff in there is, I think, the best way to get vitamin C. Of course, you could do it in high doses. You want to find a good source that's really bioavailable, and there's a whole bunch of, can't get into the whole research of vitamin C, but like this is a very simple thing that is protective and actually curative of this. And it's just so funny that it's being censored, and it just tells you about the world we live in, and the power that we have in this natural world to protect ourselves. And so I will put information about those things. I don't have it in the notes right now, but I'll go and add it in right now. I didn't have it planned of exactly what to talk about today, but there we go. And so I just wanted to thank you for being present with the prayers and your presence and the 21 days of presence. I can feel a huge shift in the collective today of kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're letting ourselves get really like, out there with this panic and hysteria. And of course, creating the vibration that makes us susceptible to illness. And yet illness isn't really all that scary either. Like, even though illness maybe have these things, clearly there's a lot of energy out there, information around this being a bioweapon, as was Ebola, as was AIDS, and this is so similar, the virus to AIDS, the way you look at it. And if you look at a close-up of these viruses, they do look rather alien. But that we have evolved through these too, and we're evolving beyond this sphere. We're evolving beyond disease. We're evolving, and so we have all the power to protect ourselves against the technological stuff too. And so important that this is coming forward so that more people can understand what's really going on and the great reveal that we're in right now. So keep your eye on the big picture, hold space. You are so important right here, right now. And thank you for being present and giving yourself that permission for your self-worth of your power, and for your peace and presence and sanity. And just huge gift that you can do, just being present with that and seeing this bigger picture and knowing that we are bringing the light in and it's time to move this thing forward. And that's this Mars sextile Neptune moving through the delusions. Now tomorrow, Jupiter moves to 22 degrees. So I think that's really significant, because that's where Saturn and Pluto came together in January. So Jupiter getting to 22, that means they're in conjunction. They're only 2 degrees apart. Mars is coming up in on the scene. And so here we are. But it's like this intensity is continuing, but Jupiter brings light and expansion and possibilities. So it's kind of like we can't stay in these delusions and in this hysteria much longer. It's got to shift, right? And we're a part of that shift. You're so important right now, right? And so keep that in mind. And also the cool little thing that's going on also is that, the North Node, Uranus is exactly sextile the North Node this whole week, and at 4 degrees, and Chiron is at 4 degrees, Aries. And so it's like, again, we're having this little lining up. So the nodes, Chiron is square the nodes. That's our tension energy right now. It's like deep healing has to happen. So no wonder we're having a healing crisis. And it's not as bad as it seems. But we've got this sweet lining up again of Chiron in Aries, Uranus in Taurus, and the North Node in Cancer. Then we also have an exact semi-sextile, one sign over, between Mercury and Saturn today and tomorrow at 29 degrees. That's very significant, because it's like Saturn's at 29, just like getting ready to move into Aquarius, and Mercury has turned direct. And it's all about this Aquarian age as it goes 3 passes. So in a couple days, it goes over into Pisces again. And it's like they're counseling each other on this. And Mercury's going, okay, this is the Aquarian energy. This is what we're figuring out about moving into Piscean age. And Saturn's like, okay, yep, the structures and our belief systems, the laws, the rules of this world have got to change. And so it's kind of like that's this picture we've been having for the last 4 or 5, 6 months of this beautiful lining up of the planets one by one in the signs, creating that new grid, and keep our consciousness on that new grid and what the stars are doing. And it's like we have that intense square with Chiron and the nodes, but everything else is like, come on, we can do this. We can work together. Magical, mystical solutions to these problems, and that Mars sextile Neptune pushing through the delusions into greater truth. So thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope you can join that 21 days of presence, and keep in mind that high noon in your time zone, 3 minutes of presence and prayer for the new world we're creating. And thank you so much for being on the team and being present. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.